Taxes. Yuck. They suck. We work so hard and then we get our paychecks and we're like, damn, where did all my money go, yo? But it's cool. We understand that without our taxes, our roads wouldn't look like this and our schools wouldn't turn out fine products like this. Some people in the US of A pay a lot of taxes and they're miserable because of it. Some of us, though, hardly pay any taxes at all. You can tell who those people are. They're a happy bunch, they are. Mostly. But there's no way around it. You gotta fork up, pal. There's only two things certain in life: death and taxes. Today, we're gonna talk about the states with the highest and lowest tax burdens. And along the way, we're gonna learn a little bit about how our government works. And we're gonna talk about the pros and the cons of living in states with high and low taxes. And don't forget, at the end, we're gonna talk about the states with the lowest taxes. Hey, it's not even April yet, and we're already talking about the T word, people. Let's get started. Hey there, if you ever wondered why you never hear from me. I can't afford to saving any money because my state is overtaxing me. The look on this guy's face says it all. He's paying his taxes. If he budgeted correctly, it's a relatively painless event. But come on now, who does that? He's likely not getting a refund this year. This man lives in Iowa. You might be thinking, Iowa, the land of conservative church people? Yes, Iowa, the land of milk and honey, has an effective 9.53% tax burden, which means that nearly 10% of an Iowan's income goes back to the state on average. And that's not even federal taxes. Look at this. Depending on how much an Iowan makes, he or she might have to pay an additional 22 or 24 or even 37% to the federal government. Without a good accountant, a very wealthy Iowan would have to put nearly half its income back into the kitty. That's not fun, is it, Iowa guy? Now you'll have people on both sides of the tax fence in Iowa, though. One lady in Iowa was quoted in this article saying she's against tax cuts for the rich, that giving tax cuts to people who don't need them isn't fair. Now, why are Iowa taxes so high? Well, the main problem in Iowa are property taxes. Iowa folks paid 3.47% yearly to the state as a clause for owning their homes. Now, to put things into perspective, let's compare Iowa's 9.53 state tax to the state with the lowest state taxes, Alaska, where residents pay 5.16%. That's because there's no income tax in Alaska, just like there's no income tax in Tennessee, Florida, Wyoming, South Dakota, Texas, Washington, or Nevada. Lucky. This Illinois lady looks perplexed, baffled, bewildered. How are her taxes so damn high? Poor Illinois lady. Maybe it's time to leave. Illinois is in trouble. The state's in a big deficit. The Wall Street Journal called Illinois the nation's leading fiscal basket case because of pension liabilities and union control over more spending. The taxes are already high enough here, and they've been trying to get rid of the flat income tax here, which means if mommy and daddy brought in $250,000 a year, their taxes would go from 4.95% to 7.75%. Illinois leaders also want to raise taxes on corporations too. But the biggest problem in Illinois are the property taxes. They have the 8th highest property taxes in the nation at 4.13%. What do you think is going to happen when they raise taxes even higher in Illinois? People are going to leave more, especially the wealthier people. Illinois is already the top state for outward migration. And when more people move, that's going to make the tax base even lower and create more deficit. Oh, but don't worry, regular Illinois folks. If they ever pass your state's fair tax plan, most of the poor people would get a 0.02% decrease in taxes, enough to maybe buy a new TV.
Holy cow!
You think Massachusetts has the highest taxes in the New England area? Wrongo bongo, pal. Not even close. Despite being called Taxachusetts, Massachusetts is actually about average of all U.S. states for tax burdens. Rhode Island is way up there, though. If you live here, you're not surprised that I'm talking about you right now. Rhode Island has the 5th highest property taxes in the country at 4.55%. That means if you own the average home in Rhode Island of $321,000, you'll be paying $14,605 of it every year to the state, just to own your home. But with that comes a home on an island, people. You get what you pay for, right? What exactly would the state use your $14,605 for? Well, if you look at Rhode Island's transparency budget, you can see where the money goes. The city of Providence gets like a third of the money, and that's not fair since they only have like 1/6 of the state's total population. What the hell? Some hospitals get like $60 million a year. Look at all these agencies that get money in Rhode Island. Man, you really have to scroll through a lot of stuff here. Okay, so who got the smallest check from the state of Rhode Island's tax coffers last year? Elise Dowdy at the Child Welfare Protective Services got $312. Aw, good for you, Elise. You're doing God's work. See, Rhode Island people, your high taxes are being put to good use. Also of note is that high school kids who graduate in Rhode Island can get an associate's degree from their community college for free, which is great. I wish college was free when I was in college. Here in New Jersey, it's already expensive enough, but tack on an almost 10% state tax burden, and it's enough to make people want to flee this state, which they're doing a lot of. And New Jersey's property taxes are higher than even in Rhode Island, 0.56% higher to be exact. New Jersey's property tax rate is the third highest in the country. However, alternatively, sales taxes are the 7th lowest in the country, so that's good. New Jersey's Democratic governor just imposed a 10.75% tax on people who make more than $1 million. It's called the millionaire tax. They used to tax people who made more than $5 million at such an astounding rate, but now they're taking money away from small businesses and S-corps to pay for social programs like universal pre-kindergarten, expanded health care benefits, and free community college. New Jersey's new millionaire tax is the third highest in the country after California and Hawaii. Not that anyone watching this video is a millionaire. Millionaires don't watch YouTube. And the worst part is New Jersey makes it really hard to write stuff off too, so you can't skirt the new millionaire tax there. Lauren Hill, who lives in South Orange, tried to get around tax laws here and got into big trouble, mister. Hers was one of the biggest tax evasion cases in the country. If you don't pay your taxes, I'll come and get you and take you to jail. Okay, where were you on that one though, super gay cop? You let that one slip through your fingers. You know who has to pay 10% a year on taxes to their state? Connecticut people do, and they're sick of it. They have the 7th highest property taxes and the 8th highest income taxes in the country. Now, Connecticut used to have really low taxes. Up until 1991, they didn't have an income tax at all. They were the only state not to tax incomes back then. And then they went to a modest 1.5% on income taxes, and then it went up and up again, and income taxes now top out at 7% here. Now, some people say Connecticuters are at a tipping point since people are leaving here for cheaper alternatives. Plus, a huge part of the tax base in Connecticut is in Fairfield County, just outside of New York City. Forever now, many successful people who worked in New York owned a home just across the state line in Connecticut because taxes were low. Now that they're not getting those tax breaks, what's the point of living in Connecticut? Now, other states have gone the other way, and they've lowered taxes as a way to stimulate their economies and bring in new residents. And then that way they'd have a higher overall tax base to help pay for their social services. States like Tennessee, North Carolina, and Georgia did that. Not coincidentally, that's where many people from the Northeast are going. Which brings up a good point. Red or conservative states average 30th highest in taxes. Blue states average the 17th highest. So red states clearly tax their residents at a much lower rate. But apparently, blue states send more money to Washington and get back less than they put in. That means Republican states collect less tax revenue but are subsidized by the blue states. Democratic states take money from their residents to pay for poor people in red states. Sometimes. A lot of times. And who's getting screwed the most and who are the biggest recipients? New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York give the most and get the least back from Washington. New Mexico, West Virginia, Mississippi, and Kentucky take the most federal money without adding a lot to the pile. You probably didn't see this one coming. That's 3 Midwest states with really high tax rates. Minnesota has the nation's 4th highest income tax at 3.6%. And corporations here pay the 6th highest tax rates in the country too. Minnesota has high taxes and good schools, but it also has high taxes and lousy roads. That's why they keep saying they're going to raise gas taxes soon here. Worth noting is that Minnesota is also one of 6 states which taxes your social security bennies too. No way. What do state taxes pay for anyways? Stuff like police, schools, roads, parks, prisons, health care plans for government workers, mental illness treatment centers, homelessness, and food and cash for poor families. They don't pay for free Wi-Fi for everyone, but perhaps they should. Back to the Northeast we go as we come to Maine, which has an average state tax rate of 10.57%. Maine really gets you on the property taxes, where they hit homeowners up for an average 4.6%, which is the fourth highest in the country. And despite being such a high tax state, they floated the idea of raising taxes on a lot of other stuff too, like cigarettes and booze and gas and heating fuel. But Maine's numbers might be a little misleading. After all, their tax burdens seem higher because Maine residents are a little bit poorer than a majority of other states. To work around this problem, the state raised the minimum wage so that the taxes didn't seem so high. Yes, that's what they did. Pay them more and tax them the same. And who paid for the increase in minimum wages? Companies did. Just across the way from Maine is the state of Vermont, which has the second highest property taxes in the country at 5.1%. This guy likes it. He's a head honcho around here. He's a big proponent of high tax, high spending states. Seems like the big problem in Vermont isn't really getting enough money in from its people. It's checking its own spending on stuff like welfare, education, and healthcare. 2/3 of Vermont's budget goes to K-12 education and healthcare.
When I grow up, I'm never gonna pay taxes.
Well, that's an ambitious goal. However, you have to pay taxes, little Mappy kid. As I just explained, taxes pay for things like schools and for food for people who are out of work.
So I have to pay money so that people can be lazy?
Okay, you have a pretty good start on life, little Mappy kid. Future Republican right there. And with that, we'll leave Maine, but we'll be back to this part of the country again, don't worry. All this paradise comes at a price, people. There's only one other state where you pay more in annual state taxes than here. Hawaii has the 10th highest income tax and the highest sales tax in the country at 6.3%. Most of the highest taxes are geared towards cigarettes, gas, and alcohol. So if you don't smoke and drink or drive anywhere, it's not so bad. And besides the whole tax thing, it's just way more expensive to live in Hawaii everywhere. Milk is $7 a gallon and gas is $5 a gallon. Hawaii also routinely mismanages its tax base. An example is the poor quality of its public schools. And despite being consistently rated as the happiest state in the nation, Hawaii is experiencing its third straight year of negative migration. 50,000 people have left these islands over the past 5 years alone. The young, highly educated, and well-off are most likely to leave, which means fewer new businesses, more crowded classrooms, and shortages of doctors and nurses, people.
Did you know Hawaii grows pineapples?
Yeah, duh, Mappy, I knew that. How about a fact I didn't know? This isn't a kid's channel.
They grow their own coffee. A volcano has been erupting for 30 years in a row. There's no billboards allowed there. There's no snakes allowed there.
Okay, Mappy, I said a fact, not facts. It's like I let you out of a box or something. As you might have guessed, New York has the highest tax burden of all other states at 12.28%. It's not even close, and that's the average. The wealthier you are here, the more you pay in taxes. Property taxes are the 5th highest, and income taxes are the highest here than in any other place. That's because New Yorkers pay an income tax at the federal level, the state level, and the local level. And they're wanting to raise taxes on the wealthy again, which is just going to drive them all away, which will mean a lower tax base and even more ghetto areas in New York City. All those decades of promises by politicians in New York have created a tax burden that's untenable. Plus, the roads take a lot of maintenance here, as does the transportation system and the police. And the safety net here means nobody's left behind. I mean, somebody has to pay for all that, right? For what seems like ever, New Yorkers have forked over their hard-earned money to justify living in the state. But now, more and more people are leaving the Empire State for cheaper, warmer, and more responsible states. And if you're counting, that's 6 states in the Northeast, 3 in the Midwest, and none in the South. Now, which states have the lowest taxes? We already mentioned the states that have 0 income tax, but overall, Alaska has the lowest tax burden at a mere 3.71%. A lot of that has to do with Alaska's rich oil fields, which means they don't have to ask the public for so much money. The other states with very low tax bases are these. Almost all are conservative states. Okay, so that's it. The states with the highest and lowest taxes. Hopefully you learned something. I did. If you live in a state where you feel pinched, where you want your money to go further and have your tax money managed better, hopefully this offered some perspective. You know, you can always head for the hills and go somewhere cheaper, right? Okay, well, I have to go now. Not to do my taxes, those are already done. I have a bundt cake in the oven and I hear the timer. What, you didn't know I could cook a bundt cake? Hey there, if you ever wondered Wondered why you never hear from me. I can't afford to saving any money because my state is overtaxing me. Got tired of working hard to earn my paycheck just to see it all get took away. Maybe I can move to somewhere cheaper now, and I can actually start to save. I live in a really bad state that's overtaxing me. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great! You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more. You can also now buy my songs on iTunes and other formats. Click the link in the description. Thanks for watching. And remember, while we all might have different views, we should all be nice to each other and try to make the U.S. a better place in a positive way.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.